Hello and welcome into today's video where I will be giving you all a sneak preview of the upcoming sci-fi fantasy souls-like Deathbound, currently being developed by Trialforge Studios. I will preface this breakdown by stating that this is a pre-alpha demo, which means a lot will change before the final release of the game, and this is an opportunity for the developers to get feedback on improvements that need to be made on the game. The demo took me around 2 hours to play through, so with more time to get used to certain mechanics, my opinions on some things may change. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. Eons ago, Goddess Life had deceived her sister, Goddess Death, to steal her powers and create the first men, a race of beings unable to die. Alive for thousands of years, they erected a powerful and advanced civilization, with magic-like technology and continent-spanning cities. But Goddess Death would not settle for being deceived, and began to slowly seduce these immortal people, overwhelmed by an existence that will never end. Eventually, they gave up their immortality, and their society collapsed overnight. Centuries later, a new civilization emerged from the wreckage of the old world, and with it, the desire to deceive death once again. For years, the Essence Mancers, a zealot sect of scholars of the forbidden knowledge, have tried to perfect a ritual that, with the use of the First Men's lost lung technology, would allow for eternal life, but at a terrible cost. You are the result of these experiments. In Deathbound, the key mechanic that separates this from the usual Souls-like is the character party system. You start off having access to 3 separate characters, or as they are called in Deathbound, essences, that you can switch between at will in order to utilise different abilities and attacks that best suit the scenario at hand. As you progress through the demo, you will find additional essences that you will absorb, and this allows you to add additional characters to your party, with a maximum of 4 active at any one time. Olivia is an elementalist spellcaster that can wield a variety of spells from lightning bolts, flamethrowers, fire enchantments, and a freezing ray. Anna is an assassin that can sneak up on unaware or frozen enemies to backstab them. Her attacks range from a melee quick attack and leap attack, with also the ability to fire a crossbow at range. Agaros is a heavy henchman with a high poise and powerful blows. He has abilities that are more in line with your usual Souls-like, as he can perform fast melee attacks, heavy attacks, and also perform blocks and knockbacks. In addition to the 3 starting essences, we soon find our 4th essence and are transported to another world full of memories that unveil the story of Theron, an elite swordsman that is well balanced between offense and defense. They have a fast attack, heavy attack, block, and parry, and once a successful parry is done, Theron can also perform ripostes. As with most Souls-likes, Deathbound provides you with mid-game checkpoints like the bonfires in Dark Souls, but here they are called the phylactery. When you rest at a phylactery, it will heal all your essences and allow you to level up, upgrade items, upgrade your essence talents, and also organise your essence party. As usual, resting at a phylactery will also reset any enemies in the area, so as always, be prepared to refight any enemies that you have already slain. Another key component to this party system is the essence binding system. This adds unique buffs and debuffs dependent on how your party is composed, and how your essence's in-game ideals align. Essences with opposing ideals located in adjacent slots in your party can create conflicts. This is indicated by the orange line connecting them. These conflicts will grant a unique buff and debuff, but if the essences share common ideals, it will create a synergy indicated by the blue line, and these synergies will grant your essences with a unique buff. These synergies and conflicts can be managed by adjusting your bond essences from the phylactery menu. In Deathbound, each essence has its own independent health and stamina, but if one of them dies, they all die. The mechanic and user interface for your health and stamina is slightly different to what you will be used to. The stamina bar overlaps the current health bar, and therefore your maximum stamina is bound by the current health of your essence. When you lose health, your maximum stamina is also reduced by the same percentage of maximum health lost. So if you lose half of your essence's health, that particular essence will only have access to half its normal stamina as well. When you deal damage, all inactive bound essences are healed based on the amount of damage dealt to your enemies. So when you're low on health, morph to another essence and attack any enemy to heal the injured members of your party. As with most Soul-likes, Deathbound does have a level up system, but it's a little bit different from just picking specific stats to increase. Once at a phylactery, you can spend experience points that you gain throughout the game by killing enemies. Instead of picking specific stats, you will be faced with a skill tree that contains both global nodes and character-specific skill nodes, but all skill upgrades will affect all of your essences. The character-specific nodes are just more suited to that particular character's abilities. As standard with Souls-likes, each time you upgrade a skill, the cost for the next skill increases, and as usual, when you die, any unspent experience points are dropped on the floor, but this can be reacquired by revisiting the area and collecting them back up. In Deathbound, you find new characters along the way and absorb them as essences. You can specifically choose which essence you want to currently fight with by using the D-pad to morph into them, or you can press Y to morph into the essence with the most stamina available. One satisfying feature of this Souls-like's unique party system is the morph strikes. Once you have built up enough sync, which is the blue bar at the bottom of the screen and is gained each time an enemy is hit or a perfect dodge is executed, you can perform a morph strike. While attacking, if you morph into a different character, you will unleash a devastating attack on your enemy. I will say that in some instances while attempting to do this, my timing backfired and it ended up with me getting clobbered instead. I found these attacks worked much better against slower enemies and the boss included within the demo. As per the morph strike, if you have enough sync in the bar at the bottom of the screen, then you can perform a morph dodge and switch essences during a dodge. This can be handy if you want to switch to an essence that has a slower moveset and you don't want to be stood right next to the enemy as you switch into them. Personally, I didn't find myself using this function very often during my play of the demo. One of my personal favourite attacks in Souls-likes is the backstab, and it is very much so present here in Deathbound. As usual, a backstab receives critical damage bonus, but only works on human-sized enemies. Deathbound comes with a whole variety of consumable items, from heals, XP, temporary stat buffs, and flasks that when thrown cause freeze, fire, and corruption. You can also equip one artifact and 2 rings to your loadout. These items will buff various attributes and skills, and each item has 2 separate boosts, a mystic bonus and an ancient bonus. Also, each artifact and ring can be upgraded to further increase these boosts, and you will need to spend XP and either a mystical catalyst or ancient catalyst depending on which aspect you want to boost. These upgrades can be done from the phylactery. The overall gameplay of Deathbound is very Souls-like, traversing through the streets of a desolate city where enemies lurk around every corner, with loot popping up here and there, and both ladder and elevator shortcuts being put in perfect position to hop back to the most recent phylactery to spend some XP and level up. The user interface feels very familiar, but with the D-pad being taken up with the essence switching system, this then means that multi-button combos are required for cycling through your quick items, and when in a dire situation, this can get a little cumbersome. The combat at first felt very sluggish and unsatisfying. Pretty much every encounter would cause me to take a lot of damage and just didn't flow. However, the further through the demo I got, the more I got used to switching between the essences during combat, and this made a huge difference to the flow. At the start I was fighting one enemy with one essence, and by the end I was switching up all 4 essences to create huge combos against the enemy, and making full use of the lifesteal mechanic, which at first I just completely forgot about. Switching between essences is crucial to the overall gameplay. However, I found that this switching mechanic was too slow, and most of the time got me in more trouble than it solved. When it worked in time, it was amazing, and felt super satisfying switching between essences at will and just decimating the enemy. However, for the majority of the demo, I got to a point where I just had to force myself to use it, because I was worried it was going to be too slow to process before I then got hit by the enemy. I did find that dodging away from enemies was pointless. My essence never got far enough away from the enemies to benefit from the dodge. So personally, I would really like to see the developers tweak this particular mechanic to make it more effective. Performing a perfect dodge does slow down time, which would have been very handy if I had managed to do it successfully. Visually, the game perfectly captures the look and feel of an advanced sci-fi world that has restarted and has dribbles of medieval fantasy dotted about it. Aesthetically, it works really well. The world is dark and dirty, but with the glowing blue lines on the walls and lit up control panels popping through the darkness was visually very pleasing. There were many instances where I found myself completely lost, as most of the areas looked the same, and without any key location markers to differentiate where I was, I did spend a lot of time retracing my steps when I didn't need to. I will say from a personal perspective, this happens to me a lot in other Souls-likes, so while it may be a slight criticism of the game, I definitely need to take most of the blame for this one. At the end of the demo, we are treated to our only taster of what Deathbound's bosses will have in store for us. Introducing Impending Truth. In true Souls-like fashion, this boss enters the arena with its own cutscene, showing us just how grotesque it really is. For me, the combat is par for the course, with a small variety of fast grab attacks, backhands, a heavy jump attack that allows the boss to close the gap very quickly, while also doing a lot of damage if you get struck by it. The boss's staff weapon hits like a tank, and due to its length will clip you even when you think you're at a safe distance. The AI for this boss definitely needs some work though. On some attempts it would be highly aggressive and precise, giving me little opportunity to attack, but on most other attempts the AI was flat out broken. Several times the boss would just start attacking thin air, and even at one point decided to focus on a wall at the other end of the arena and just started walking towards it, with zero concern for me attacking it from behind as it retreated. This is either a broken boss or a very Chad move, with the boss not even thinking I'm worth its attention. Overall, when it worked as I assume intended, the fight was a good challenge. It had several phases which then introduced more attacks which helped to freshen up the fight, as for the most part it felt like the boss had 4 attacks that it would just cycle through over and over again. But in the end, as the boss was far too passive and acted as though I wasn't even in the arena, this made the overall immersion and atmosphere for what should have been an epic battle to the death a slightly disappointing way to end the demo. All in all, I feel like Deathbound has huge potential. It keeps true to the core of what makes a good Souls-like while adding in its own unique twist with the Essence Party system. Trialforge Studios definitely have a lot of work to do to polish certain aspects of the game, and to fix some of the issues I face, such as the seemingly useless dodge, the slow timing for switching essences during combat, and the AI for the boss, which again, for the most part, was completely broken. Visually, the game performed fairly well. There were some instances of screen tear, but for the majority of my playthrough, this wasn't an issue. Again, I must stress that this was a pre-alpha demo, so this is not the final version of the game by any means. Fingers crossed Trialforge take their time to work out all of the issues, and deliver a game that I know with a few tweaks will be a great experience for any Souls-like fan. Personally, I will be keeping a close eye on this game, and it will most definitely be staying on my wishlist. But for now, that's it. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on Deathbound, what you liked, what you didn't, and also what you hope to see when it's released. Thanks for watching, and for more Souls-like content, don't forget to like and subscribe.